Picture this. It's late at night. Your phone is silent. The room feels heavier than it should. You replay every word you said, every moment you tried to be understanding, every time you chose calm over chaos. You tell yourself you did the right thing. But somewhere deep inside, a question keeps echoing. If being good was enough, why did it still fall apart? Stay with me, because what you're about to hear isn't comforting, but it's honest. It's late at night. The room is quiet, but your mind isn't. The kind of silence where every thought gets louder, where memories replay without permission. You're sitting there wondering how you did everything right and still ended up here. You were calm, you were honest, you were emotionally present. You offered reassurance, stability, safety, and somehow that wasn't enough. You remember the way she looked at you near the end. Not angry, not sad, just distant, as if something inside her had already checked out. And what haunts you the most is this. She once told you that you made her feel safe, yet she walked away anyway. What I'm about to tell you will challenge everything you've been taught about attraction, love, and emotional security. It may even offend you. But if you're willing to listen without flinching, you'll understand a truth most men discover too late. Women do not feel safest with emotionally harmless men. They feel safest with men who are emotionally dangerous, but controlled. Not violent, not abusive, not cruel. Dangerous in a different way. Dangerous because they are not easily moved. Dangerous because they have emotional weight. Dangerous because they do not need approval to exist. You see, the word safe has been misunderstood. Modern culture teaches men that safety means predictability, softness, total transparency, constant reassurance. But the human nervous system doesn't define safety that way, especially not the female nervous system, which is deeply ancient, deeply instinctual, and deeply wired for survival. A woman's brain didn't evolve in calm environments. It evolved in chaos, in uncertainty, in danger. And the male figure she learned to trust was never the weakest or the most emotionally exposed. It was the one who could handle pressure without breaking. This is where men get confused. You think being emotionally open means being emotionally strong, but often it means the opposite. Emotional strength is not about expressing everything you feel. It's about regulating what you feel, carrying it without asking someone else to manage it for you. The emotionally dangerous man understands this instinctively. He doesn't dump his emotions into the relationship. He doesn't seek validation to stabilize himself. He doesn't collapse under emotional tension. And because of that, his presence feels grounding. Let's talk about biology for a moment, because this isn't about opinions or morality, it's about brain chemistry. Attraction lives in the nervous system before it ever reaches logic. Dopamine, cortisol, serotonin, these chemicals shape emotional attachment more than words ever will. Dopamine is released when outcomes are uncertain, when there is mystery, when there is anticipation. The emotionally dangerous man creates uncertainty not by playing games, but by being internally complete. His life doesn't revolve around her reactions. His mood doesn't depend on her approval. That unpredictability keeps the brain engaged. Cortisol, the stress hormone, plays a strange role in bonding. Emotional tension followed by relief strengthens attachment. That's why relationships with emotional spikes often feel more intense. Not healthier, but stronger. The nervous system confuses intensity with importance. Serotonin is tied to hierarchy and respect. When a man is emotionally centered, when he doesn't chase or over-explain, his position feels solid. The brain registers that stability as leadership, and leadership on a biological level feels safe. Now compare this to the emotionally harmless man. He explains everything. He reassures constantly. He reacts quickly. He tries to remove all tension. And in doing so, he removes polarity. He removes contrast. He removes the very elements that keep attraction alive. You've seen the signs, even if you didn't understand them at the time. She said things like, "I don't know why, but something feels off." Or "You're perfect, or "I feel like the spark is gone." What she couldn't articulate was that her nervous system no longer felt engaged. There was no edge, no gravity, no sense that you could withstand chaos if it arrived. And then there's the other man, the one she calls toxic, the one she says she knows is bad for her. Notice how often she still talks about him. Notice how emotionally alive she becomes when she does. That's not because he treated her well. It's because he triggered her nervous system. He didn't bend under emotional pressure. He didn't explain himself into submission. He didn't need her tea, feel okay. And that independence created a sense of containment. Here's the paradox most men miss. A woman does not feel safe when she is in control of a man. She feels burdened. She feels anxious. Because now she has to manage the emotional environment. And deep down, she knows that if something truly goes wrong, this man will look to her for stability. That's not safety. That's responsibility. The emotionally dangerous man doesn't hand her that responsibility. He carries himself. He sets boundaries without anger. When something crosses his line, he doesn't argue endlessly. He withdraws, calmly, without drama. And that ability to walk away without emotional collapse is what creates respect. This is why over-explaining is so destructive. Every explanation is a request for understanding. Every request subtly lowers your position. You are asking to be accepted instead of assuming your value. Over time, this erodes attraction. You think you're building closeness, but you're actually dissolving tension. And without tension, desire dies. Let me tell you about a man I once knew. He was kind, thoughtful, emotionally intelligent. He checked in constantly, asked how she felt, adjusted himself to keep the peace. At first, she appreciated it, but slowly she began to lose respect. She stopped listening. She pushed boundaries. Not because she wanted to hurt him, but because her nervous system was testing him. And every time he folded, every time he apologized just to restore harmony, he failed the test. Until one day she left. Not angrily, not dramatically. She simply lost attraction. Then there was another man, quieter, less expressive, not emotionally cold, but emotionally disciplined. When conflict arose, he didn't chase resolution. He didn't plead to be understood. He stated his boundary once and remained still. She felt anxious around him at first. But beneath that anxiety was something deeper, trust. Because she sensed that this man would not be shaken easily, that if chaos entered the room, he wouldn't panic. That's what safety actually is. The presence of strength, not the absence of danger. Modern culture tells men to disarm themselves emotionally, to be endlessly vulnerable, to expose everything. But vulnerability without strength is not attractive. It's destabilizing. This creates a silent crisis. Men become softer. Women become confused. Relationships collapse quietly, without anyone fully understanding why. And the man is left wondering how being good was enough. Here's the hard truth, brother. Women don't want men who scare them. They want men who could scare them, but choose restraint. They want to feel that power exists, even if it's never used. Emotional danger is not cruelty, it's capacity. The capacity to walk away, the capacity to say no, the capacity to hold silence. When you lack that capacity, your kindness feels empty. When you have it, your kindness feels meaningful. So what do you do with this truth? You stop trying to be emotionally impressive. You stop performing vulnerability for approval. You stop explaining yourself to people who are already leaning away. You build a life that stands on its own, a life with purpose, direction, and internal order. You become predictable in your values, but unpredictable in your emotional availability. Not distant, not manipulative, grounded. You speak less. You observe more. You let your actions carry weight. You understand that silence is not weakness, it's discipline. Because the most dangerous man in the room is not the loudest or the angriest. It's the one who doesn't need to prove anything. And paradoxically, that is the man women feel safest with. Remember this before you close this video. You were never meant to be harmless. You were meant to be controlled. Strength doesn't mean cruelty. Silence doesn't mean absence. Distance doesn't mean indifference. It means you have a center that doesn't collapse when tested. Stop chasing safety through approval. Stop explaining yourself into weakness. Build a life so solid that your presence alone creates calm. Because when a man is grounded, disciplined, and willing to walk away, his kindness has weight, his silence has meaning, and his love feels safe. Carry this truth with you.